let's give the Second Baptist against the church and bring the choir. All of you gathered under the sound of my voice, we greet you with Jesus' joy. Amen. Amen. We just thank God for each one of you. Amen. We thank God for all of our visitors that are in the building today. Amen. We thank God for you. Amen. Let us go to the Word of God, the book of Acts, chapter number 16. Chapter 16. We're going to begin reading at verse number 16. Amen. All who are able to stand under the reverence of the Word of God. Acts 16 and 16. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us, and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains were gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes, and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison, and made their feast fast in the stocks. And at midnight Paul and Silas prayed, and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundation of the prison was shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. Amen. Amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for simply being who you are. We thank you for being a holy God, a righteous God, a just God. Oh God, we ask that you would continue to bless us on this morning. That you would anoint me afresh, oh God. That you would touch your people, oh God. That you would have your way in this place, oh God, as only you can. Oh God, allow your word to not return to your void, oh God. But let us accomplish the thing that you have sent it to do. Oh God, we just simply thank you and we praise you for what you're going to do in this place. It's in Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. Amen. Says, and at midnight Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. You know, we're going to talk to you for a little while from the thought how to make the best out of a bad situation. How to make the best out of a bad situation. I believe that the unique environment that I was raised in has enabled me to thrive during almost any type of situation. The environment I grew up in had a unique balance to it. When I was growing up, my mother made a nice living, which afforded her the opportunity to buy my brother and I nice things. However, my grandmother and grandfather lived in the house with us, who came up struggling and trying to get by. So I grew up with the balance of being exposed to both experiences. I literally saw what it was like to have it going on and having to make ends meet all at the same time. I can remember my mom coming home with new clothes for us, and at the same time my grandma was sewing holes in old socks and old shirts. There being a new bottle of ketchup in the cabinet, but not being allowed to open it until we put a little warm water in the old bottle. Shake it up. steak for dinner on one night and on the next night having all sausages and grits. What this unique experience taught me is foreign to the generation that's coming up now, but it taught me how to make the best out of a bad situation. When my wife and I first got married, finances got a little tight, and so I went directly into my make the best out of a bad situation mode. And the first thing I did was I applied for a gas card, and after I paid my bills and paid my tithe, I put $20 in my pocket for the week, and I banked the rest of my money, and if I needed gas, I put it on the gas card and paid the gas card off at the end of the month so it didn't accrue any interest. I packed my lunch for work every day and didn't break that 20 unless I absolutely had to do it. Because you know when you break that 20.
It's gone. I know it has. It's gone. It's all you took. You know where no more.
Those who counsel couples say the main reason marriages are ending in divorce are finances and commitment. However, there was a time when leaving wasn't an option. Folk just chose to make the best of a bad situation. Finances got tight. You chose to make the best out of a bad situation until they got right. The romance cooled off. You chose to make the best of a bad situation till it got heated back up. That Coca-Cola bottle figure she had started looking like a 2-liter. You chose to make the bad out of a bad situation. That chiller chest he had dropped down and wrapped below his belly. You chose to make the best of a bad situation. All of us Indians need to get a revelation that even when the situations in your life are not ideal, you can still find a way to make the best of it. It may not look good, but make the best of it. It may be difficult, but make the best of it. You might have to look crazy, but make the best of it. Don't throw in the towel, make the best of it. Or touch your neighbor and just say, make the best of it. This is a concept that we all need to understand because it does not matter who you are. Every now and then on life's journey, you will find yourself in the midst of a bad situation. But my pastor used to always say that you're either one of three places: going into trouble, coming out of trouble, or you're in trouble right now. Has anyone been there? If you haven't, just keep on living. Because it does not matter how saved you are. It does not matter how holy you are. It does not matter how sanctified you are. You will have to endure some bad situations. And there's somebody here this morning that can testify that life has a way of throwing you a curveball and you end up in a bad situation. You had a good job, but then you found out that the good job was closing down. You were thankful for that nice home, but then you found out you were behind on the payments in that nice home. You were as healthy as you can be, and now you're just thankful for a little health and a little strength. But I came to encourage somebody this morning. It doesn't matter how bad the situation is. You can make the best out of a bad situation. We serve a God that specializes in making the best out of a bad situation. You remember Jesus attended a wedding in Cana of Galilee. And the wedding couple there found themselves in the midst of a bad situation. In the middle of their wedding, they had run completely out of wine. In biblical time, this was seen as a great embarrassment. Jesus, a mother, got wind of the problem and told Jesus. And Jesus said, "What do I have to do with this?" He said, "My hour is not yet come." His mothers told the servants that were there that whatever he tells you to do, just do it. And you know the story. Jesus made the best of a bad situation by miraculously turning water into wine. But what I need you to understand is when Mary told the servants to do whatever Jesus told them to do, Jesus hadn't said he was going to do anything. But she just expected him to do something. I don't know who I'm preaching to this morning, but to make the best out of a bad situation, you've got to have the type of faith that expects Jesus to do something. You don't know what he's going to do, but you're expecting him to do something. You don't know how he's going to do first missionary journey. Back in chapter 15, Paul tells his missionary companion Barnabas that they should go and visit all of the churches that they had planted during their first missionary journey. However, Barnabas wanted to take Mark along. But Paul disagreed because Mark had deserted them earlier and did not continue with them on their mission. The Bible says the disagreement was so sharp that they separated. Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Cyprus. Paul chose Silas and went through Syria and Cilicia. Just pump your brakes for a moment and let's park here for a minute. Because the text says that the disagreement between Paul and Barnabas was sharp or angry. So here we have these two fellows that made it in the book who were not getting along. So if these guys who made it in the book have a situation where they are not agreeing, surely there will be some time when some of us won't agree. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not condoning Christian quarreling. What I am saying is I've seen the unrealistic expectations of church relationships to be more at the center of a church hurt than the disagreement itself. And you've heard people say, I just can't believe that somebody from the church did that. I just can't believe somebody from the church said that. As if what the person did or said was secondary to the fact it was from somebody from the church who did or said what they said. But I don't understand why that's surprising. Because although we are church people, at the end of the day, we are still people. And if the truth be told, it doesn't matter how long you've been saved, as long as we are in this flesh, any one of us from the pulpit to the door can potentially respond in our flesh. I'm not saying that we should. I believe we should get to a level of maturity where we can bring our flesh under submission. But nevertheless, as long as we are in this flesh, the potential to respond in our flesh is there. And then this is the reason why I love the Bible, because the Bible is real. The Bible doesn't teach we'll always get along. Jesus himself said it is impossible that offenses will not come. He went on to say, if thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him, and if he repent, forgive him. Jesus said this because he knew we were not going to get along all the time. He literally said it is impossible. So the greater issue is not that we always get along. It is how we make the best out of a bad situation when we don't get along. In the book of Colossians, Philemon, and 1st and 2nd Timothy, it is evident that later Paul eventually began to minister with Mark and to value his contributions to the work of God. We don't know if it was Mark that changed or Paul that changed. God probably had to do a work in both of them. But what we do know is somebody had to forgive. And there's somebody in here right now that could be making the best of a bad situation if they would just forgive. And there would be peace between you and your significant other if you would just forgive. Your family would be closer if you would just forgive. The church would be on one accord if you would just forgive. Now I can kind of understand if those outside of the church, those who don't know the Lord, are struggling to forgive. But I find it difficult to understand how folk who have been forgiven are finding it hard to forgive. You're not helping me. If you say this not because you've been so good, it's because you've been forgiven. If you've been redeemed, it's not because you're perfect, it's because you're forgiven. If you have a right to the tree of life, it's not because you deserve it, it's because you've been forgiven. If God has forgiven you, how dare you sit there and put unforgiveness in your heart? Church of other living says, there you go. Now Paul's missionary journey had brought him and Silas into the city of Philippi. And they stayed there several days. There was no Jewish synagogue in Philippi, so on the Sabbath they would go outside of the city to the riverside where they met a group of women for prayer. In our text, it is the Sabbath day. And Paul and Silas are on their way to the riverside for prayer. But while they were on their way, a slave girl, demon possessed with the spirit of divination or fortune telling, follows them and begins to cry out, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, who proclaim the way of salvation. But Paul, being greatly annoyed, cast the spirit out of her. But when her master saw what was bringing in their money was gone, they grabbed Paul and Silas and took them to the authorities in the marketplace. They told the authorities that the whole city is in an uproar because of these Jews. They are teaching customs that are illegal for us Romans to practice. A mob formed and Paul and Silas were stripped and beaten with rods. After they were severely beaten, they were thrown into prison. The jailer was ordered to make sure they didn't escape. So the jailer threw them into the inner prison and put their feet in chains. Now beaten, bloody, and bound, Paul and Silas find themselves in a sure enough bad situation. Now this tells us that even though Paul and Silas are in this predicament, they are making the best out of a bad situation. These boys found themselves in a bad situation, but the text says around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, making the best out of a bad situation. Let's look at their dilemma. Let's look at their crisis. Let's look at their circumstance, and let's glean some principles on how to make the best out of a bad situation. I think the first thing that we need to do is remember how Paul and Silas got into this bad situation in the first place. They were just two brothers on their way to prayer. Two brothers on the way to do a good thing. Just two brothers on the way to do a good thing. This gives us our first principle, which is good people do find themselves in the midst of bad situations. I'm going to say that again. Good people do find themselves in the middle of a bad situation. Just because you're saved, just because you're sanctified, just because you're a member of Second Baptist does not mean you're immune to bad situations. You can be saved and be a tither and still lose your job. You can be Holy Ghost filled and fire baptized and still end up sick. You can read your Bible 365 days of the year and still end up in financial difficulty. You see, somebody needs to hear that, because you need to hear this, because you're so focused on the fact that you don't think you should be in the bad situation, crying out, Lord, why me? Talk about, Lord, I'm in church every Sunday. Jesus, I'm serving you the best I can. Instead of making the best of a bad situation, you're making the bad situation worse. Nowhere in the text do we see Paul and Silas with a woe is me attitude. You don't read where they say, I don't deserve to be here. Those people did me wrong. I shouldn't have been beat like that. Paul and Silas decided that there was no reason to waste time and energy on something that had already happened and they could not change. You see, every now and then you need to quote that prayer of serenity. God, grant me serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference between the two. But who am I preaching to? I'm not saying it was your fault. I'm not saying you deserve to be in the situation, but I am saying that you're in it. So make the best of it and focus your energy on coming out of it. You want to just touch your own neck and say, you coming out of this. Now, Paul and Silas made the best out of a bad situation because they didn't see their present state as their permanent reality. I believe that they made the best out of a bad situation because they didn't see their present state as their permanent reality. You see, some of us, when we find ourselves in a bad situation, we lose hope and begin to feel like we are always going to be where we are. Start thinking, I'm never going to get out of this. And start thinking, this is all I'll ever be. And start thinking, I'm stuck in this mess. But Paul and Silas us had the attitude that I'm coming out of this. I might be battered, but I'm coming out of this. I might be bruised, but I'm coming out of this. I might be beaten, but I'm coming out of this. And anybody in the house know that you might be in a bad situation, but you don't see your situation as a final destination. You know that somehow, some way, that God's going to bring you out of this. You need to make the best of a bad situation because you're being observed. Paul and Silas had been preaching, and no doubt they had been talking about Jesus and all that he had done and how he could deliver and how he could make a way and how you should have faith in him. And so now they find themselves in the situation when now they have to trust Jesus to bring them out of that situation, to trust him to make a way. And so many times as a believer, we need to make the best out of a bad situation so we can be an example to those who are around us, who've heard our testimony, who've seen what we said Jesus can do, and so they can see how we believe in the midst of what we're going through. That reminds me of a story I heard some years ago about there was a man going around selling salve. Y'all don't know what salve is. He was going around selling salve. And so he went to this lady's house and he was telling this lady, he said, you need to buy some of this salve. This is some of the best salve that you could ever buy. This salve will heal a wound. It will, any kind of wound, sore you have on it, it will heal it. But when he was showing her the salve, she noticed he had a sore on his hand. And so of course she asked the same question you all would have asked. It works so well, why it ain't working for you? And likewise, many times we need to humble ourselves. We need to honor God in our situation and be a testimony to encourage somebody else. That word testimony in its original context literally means evidence given. So many times you can be a testimony to somebody who you encounter. Evidence that God can deliver from drugs. Evidence that there's life after divorce. Evidence that cancer don't have the last word. Evidence that God's able to bring you out of bankruptcy. Evidence that God can take you out of a bad situation and bring you into a good one. Is there anybody who's willing to say, I'm evidence to you? Silas found themselves in a bad situation. In this bad situation, they never lost their praise. Paul and Silas said, regardless of what I've been through, I still have a praise inside of me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. You see, many times, you see, anybody can praise when we're doing well. Anybody can praise when the refrigerator is full. Anybody can praise when our children is acting like they have good sense. Anybody can praise when there isn't any foolishness going on the job. And anybody can praise when the bank account it has some numbers in front of the zeros. Anybody can praise him then. But many times we need to praise him regardless of what situation we find ourselves in. I read this where it says somewhere that we are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Is there anybody in the house have ever been in a bad situation, but you still haven't lost your praise? You were just like David. You said, I will bless the Lord at all times. And praise shall continually be in my mouth. Come on now. So here we are. great earthquake. So much that the text said that the foundation of the prison was shaken, and immediately all the doors were open and everybody's bands were loosed. A great earthquake has come, and what has happened? Paul and Silas are singing and praising God. While they're singing and praising God, the ground began to shake up under their feet. While they're singing and praising God, the doors of the jail open up. While they're singing and praising God, their bands have fallen off of them and they're not loose. And years ago, I used to think that the earthquake, that God caused the earthquake to get them out. I thought that was the purpose of the earthquake. That the earthquake was shook the jail in order to get them out. But later I understood that it wasn't God making the earthquake and slinging the doors open to get them out. It was God trying to get in. You see, the Bible says that He inhabits the praises of His people. And He said, wait a minute, somebody is down there in the prison giving me praise. Somebody's in prison giving me glory. Somebody's locked up calling my name. He said, I got to leave and go where they are. You do know that when He said that word inhabits, simply means to dwell. It simply means that God comes in and sits down in the midst of your praise. He said, so the earthquake wasn't to get them out. The earthquake was God going in. Does anybody know that we have a God who comes in the midst of your situation, right where you are? You can come in with all of God. Somebody praise Him right now. You want to give Him praise. You want to give Him power. You want to give Him glory. The King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? He's the Lord of Lords. Who is this King of glory? He's the Lord of hosts. Who is this King of glory? Somebody say, He'll come in. I believe because Paul and Silas gave God the best praise that they had, the doors were open. Because they gave God the best praise they had, their chains were broken. Because they gave God the best praise they had, they were set free. I don't know about you, but I'm going to give God the best that I've got. The Bible, I heard the psalmist say, through many dangers, toils and snares, I have already come. If that's another reason to praise Him, myself, when you look back over your life, I can see what He brought you through. Some things you shouldn't have been out of. Some things you came out of only God could have got you out of. You ought to give Him your best praise. When you know it was God who picked you up, turned you around, placed your feet on solid ground, you ought to give Him your best praise. You look back over your life, and you know you should have lost your mind because of what you've been through. You kept your mind in perfect peace because you kept your mind stayed on Him. Oh my God. Is there anybody in the house willing to give God their best praise? You can make the best out of a bad situation. Many times, a bad situation is determined by your perspective in the midst of the bad situation. How are you viewing the situation? I believe that's why David said, oh, magnify the Lord with me. And let's exalt His name together. You know that you can't make the Lord any bigger than He already is. But I believe what David was referring to. He said, oh, magnify. He said, I'm in the midst of a bad situation.